Canada or Australia? Which one should I choose to immigrate? This is probably the first question that comes to our mind when we think of permanent residency and we think of immigration from our home countries. So in this video, I'll tell you all the factors that you should consider before taking the most important decision of your lifetime. But before I do that, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Shitanshu from Dream Abroad. If you want to immigrate to Canada or Australia without paying hefty fee to the consultants, please visit my channel. I've got tons of videos on the immigration process of both of these countries. I do upload videos almost every day now, so if you haven't subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe it. Okay, I'm a permanent resident of Canada, but I'll try to be as neutral as I can. Both the countries are great. Both the countries are great options to immigrate.
Both the countries are very similar in terms of the facilities that they have to offer to the immigrants. Quality of life, employment opportunities, organized immigration system, infrastructure, education and medical facilities, world-class cities, everything is very similar in both of these countries. But obviously there are some factors based on which you should decide whether you should immigrate to Australia or you should choose Canada. So the factors which we are going to discuss in this video would be cost of living, average salary, weather conditions, geographical advantages, rights and privileges, employment opportunities, and few other factors as well. Now, these factors would be important for you only if you are eligible to apply in both of these countries. What if you're not eligible to apply in Australia? Then this comparison would not be even valid for you. Similarly, what if you're ineligible to apply for Canada? This discussion would not be important for you at all. So the first point is the immigration process, and it is eligibility. So the very first point that you should consider is your eligibility to apply the permanent residency for Australia or Canada. Both of these countries have very similar criteria based on the factors like age, your skilled employment, your work experience, and your educational qualifications, etc. Now, if you look over here, somebody who's got 8 to 10 years of experience or more will get 15 points in Australia. However, anybody who has got more than 3 years of experience will get the same amount of points in Canada. So it's very important to notice here that let's say somebody who is 35 years of age, obviously you have some points reduced because of your age, both in the case of Canada and Australia, but you'll get more points in Australia, which will increase your chances of eligibility. While in the case of Canada, you won't get any special point for your work experience. Anybody who has got 3 years or more will get the same amount of points. So your eligibility should be the first point. The other point to be noted over in this eligibility phase only is that, let's say you've studied in electronics, mechanical, biotechnical, or any other stream, and you're working in IT. In that case, your points will get deducted if you talk of Australia, but it does not matter in the case of Canada. So Canada has an upper hand over here. So this is a application specific things. It would differ from one person to the other. In that case, you should actually first decide if you're actually eligible for Canada or Australia. Now, if you're eligible for both of them, then in that case you should decide further. Okay, the second point is probability of getting the invitation. Now, let's say that you are eligible, but you have to consider the probability, right? You have to consider how much time it will take for you to get the PR. Let's say you're ready to wait and you wait for a couple of years to get the invitation and all, and then after that you submit your application. Then you spend around 2 years to settle over there. So it will be like a 5-year term program. Nobody wants that, right? So let's discuss the probability. So let's say that you have around 65 points, which is the minimum eligibility criteria for Australia, and you have around 460 points in the Canadian point system. So in that case, you're eligible for both of them, but in the case of Australia, you'll have to wait for maybe an year to get the invitation. You never know. It might take even 1.5 years. But in the case of Canada here, you'll get the invitation immediately in the next draw within the next 15 days because you'd have a great CRS score. Now, let's say the other case, you have 75 points, while in the case of Canada, you have 410 points. In that case, the probability of getting the invitation from Australia is more. You'll get the invitation from Australia in a couple of months, if not less. In the case of Canada, you'll need to wait or maybe apply for any PNP program. So in this case, you should apply for Australia. Let's say that you're eligible for both of these countries, and either you have very good score, and when you apply for both of them you would immediately get invitation from both of these countries, or let's say that you're eligible but you don't have good score for either of them. In that case, which should you choose? Now let's discuss the points for those people who actually lie in this hemisphere over here. Okay, now let's compare different deciding factors based on which you can take your decision. So the first factor would be cost of living, which is actually higher in the case of Australia, while in the case of Canada, it is a bit lower side. Okay, before we compare the cost of living, it's very important to realize that both these currencies are more or less equal, so it doesn't differ much in terms of foreign exchange. Okay, cost of living. So this is a very useful website that I found over the internet. They've given a description over here across many things over here. So if in the case of Australia, it is, you can see that average monthly disposable salary after tax is 36% more, and similarly the basic utilities are also 35% more. Cinema price tickets are like 40% more. uh, the clothing and shoe prices are 43% more. Internet is 34% more. So on a holistic view, if you try to check, you'll obviously find that everything is around 30 to 40% more expensive in Australia in comparison to that of Canada. Rents per month, which is obviously the biggest difference that you would feel, is actually 74% more expensive. So if you earn more in Australia, you would actually end up spending more as well. Okay, now the difference between average salaries as well. So in Australia, it is higher, and in the case of Canada, it is a bit lower. So there's an equilibrium in between the cost of living and the average salary. If you earn more, you end up spending more as well in Australia. Okay, so this is the official website of government of Australia, and you can find that the average salary per week is around 1600 in the case of Australia, while in the case of Canada it's around $1,000 only. Big difference actually, in the case of average weekly earnings in Canada in comparison to that of Australia. So the weather conditions. Weather conditions are much better in Australia. It is much warmer if you live in, if you belong to countries like India, Pakistan. You'll find much, more of a similar weather in Australia, while in Canada it is much, much colder. Obviously, it is famous for its cold weather. For 3, 4 months, the temperature would even go down to around minus 25, 35 degrees Celsius in some places of Canada. Geographical advantages. Okay, so Australia enjoys its proximity with New Zealand, while Canada enjoys its proximity with USA, which offers great advantage for people working in IT and different sectors as well. Now, if you're a permanent resident of Australia, in that case, migrating to New Zealand, living or working in New Zealand would be much easier. But in the case of Canada, as a permanent resident, it's very difficult because you have to get that H-1B visa. However, when you become the citizen of Canada, it becomes much easier. Social security benefits. Social security benefits like sickness and unemployment, wages. In Australia, you would get them only after 2 years of being and living as permanent resident, while in Canada, you would enjoy it immediately. So this also difference, it might be a deciding factor for some people. Unemployment rate. Okay, unemployment rate in Australia is bit on the lower side. However, in Canada, it is slightly on the higher side. Let's see what the statistics have to say about it. Okay, so again, this is the official website of Government of Canada, and you can find that in October 2018, the unemployment rate was around 5.8%, while in the official website of Government of Australia, you can find the official unemployment rate was exactly 5.2%. So there's a difference of 0.6% in Australia to Canada. But obviously, this is just a statistics and it does differ from one person to the other and from one profile to the other. Okay, citizenship. Being in Australia as a permanent resident, you have to spend around 4 years to apply for the citizenship, while in the case of Canada, you have to stay there for 3 years and then you can apply straight away for the citizenship of Canada. And obviously, I'm talking staying there as a permanent resident, not as a temporary worker or on a work permit or on a study visa. So, guys, these were the basic points through which you can actually decide, if you want to immigrate to Canada or if you want to immigrate to Australia. But I would still insist, first of all, you should consider the immigration process, and there are different, benefits, pros and cons of each of these countries, but they're more or less very similar. They are both are great countries to immigrate, and they offer, huge benefits to people who actually immigrate as permanent residents. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you like the video, please click the like button and share it with your friends if you think it would be useful for them as well. And also, please subscribe my channel if you haven't subscribed it yet.